Welcome everyone. We're just going to give a couple more minutes for more participants to join. Thank you for your time and for being here. Hi everyone, welcome to our PPCR talk. Today we're having Marcel Casasola, a medical doctor from Peru. He took the program back in 2015 and we had the honor to have him as a teaching assistant. Marcel also was a postdoctoral research fellow at PPCR Decanes, and he worked in the neurology and emergency department research labs. And then he applied to do his internal medicine in Boston. He's currently in his third year and he's looking for a critical care and pulmonary fellowship. Marcel, thank you once more to have you here. We're really honored that you could have the time. We're really glad with all your achievements, and we hope that all our students and prospective PPCR students and alumni who join us today who learn from you, and you're more than welcome to start your presentation. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Alma. It's really an honor to be here with every one of you. I want. Oh, there you go, the disclaimer. So I was mentioning that I'm very happy to be here with you. I'm very it's a very humbling experience. You know, when you mentioned that I was a 2015 student, I just realized how much time it has passed, and you know, it's really impressive, all the things that have happened in my life ever since I took this course. So with that said, you know, I'm hoping that after this small chat, you guys have any, I can answer any questions you may have. And I want to start by saying that, as Alma was mentioning, I'm Peruvian. I'm currently a senior resident at Mount Auburn Hospital in Cambridge. This is a Harvard associated residency. And, you know, I'm a die-hard fan of Hamilton, an American musical. And well, you know, as many immigrants, my path has been a very interesting one. I want to start by mentioning that yeah, yeah, I love Hamilton too, Stefania. So what I was going to mention is that you know, I first took PPCR when so my pathway starts like this. I did medicine back at home in Peru in San Marcos University, and then you know, after that I felt that there was something missing in my training. I've always been curious, and you know, it was just that I felt that I didn't want to go right away into residency at that time. So I took a job in Chicago, and it was thanks to a Peruvian organization that you know, gave me the opportunity to go there and kind of like experience how it was to do a little bit of public health, that I got connected to the idea of, you know, why not dedicate my career towards public health? And that was my first approach towards PPCR. You know, I come from a low income family, and you know, at the beginning, money was going to be a little trickier for me. So I decided to send an email to Dr. Fregni, and he was really amazing. You know, he gave me the chance of splitting payments so that I could attend and you know, be part of this course. I was really motivated. You know, my family had some savings, so it definitely made it easy for me to be able to afford the tuition. And for that, I will be forever grateful, Dr. Fregni. And you know, I started taking the classes initially online, and then one of the fellows that was supposed to attend one of the labs actually couldn't make it for whatever reason. And then, you know, there was an opening, and they were saying, well, I mean, if you're interested, it'd be an interesting thing for you to do. So that's how I ended up here in Boston. I started at Dr. Freeman in neurology. He's not Friedman from gastroenterology, which I'm sure you guys know. But yeah, Dr. Freeman gave me an opportunity. Dr. Freeman, Dr. Gibbons, and you know, Ben Illigans, who is also one of the doctors from Germany. Between the three of them, they found a spot for me in their lab. I started, you know, doing some autonomic nervous system research. At that time, I had no clue how research worked. Had you asked me about a t-test or, you know, Kruskal-Wallis or these fancy things that you guys do on a daily basis, I had absolutely no clue. But you know, it was kind of like I was taking the classes in parallel, and I like to think that I'm one of the luckiest guys on earth, and that they saw something in me, and they gave me the opportunity, and they gave me, you know, some hours so that I could go and attend the classes. So it was, you know, along these few months that I really started learning more. I got very interested in research. Um, I experienced how it was to you know, start a project since the beginning of the conception of the idea. What is an IRB that I had absolutely no clue at the time how intricate, you know, the details are. You know, what's an FDA approval process, and all these fancy things that now have become an everyday thing. You know, it started little by little back in 2015, and I think towards the end of the fellowship, which was for a year, and it was an unpaid fellowship, by the way. I got a pretty good idea of how things were going, and what I wanted to do with my life. I felt that that missing link between clinical medicine that I had trained on in Peru, and the desire to learn more and do my own things in research was finally, coming together. Now that year, as I was mentioning, my family is not, we don't really have the resources to live here in America for too long. So I had a very honest conversation with my PI, and I mentioned that I had a terrific experience and that I really wanted to continue. With that said, funding was going to be an issue, and he was very understanding, and he helped me with the funding. I think based on the fact that I'm not a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, my funding had to be from a private institution. I don't really know all the details, but what I can tell you is that, you know, for those of you looking for funding, if you are not a U.S. citizen or green card holder, it has to come from either a discretionary fund from your PIs or some private funding from different institutions. And other things that you can do is also reach out to your governments. In my case, Peru doesn't really have a structured program for fellows, so I couldn't really apply for scholarships. But in any case, I was lucky enough that Dr. Freeman decided to continue investing in me. And at the same time, my research skills by that time were growing and growing. So one of the funny things is that, and I forgot to mention this, but at the end of the fellowship was with coincided with the end of PPCR, and there was this, I'm pretty sure you guys may have something similar, though I'm not sure now in the times of COVID, but there was this 5 days workshop in Salvador de Bahia. And I thought, well, I had saved a little money, I had roommates, so I said, why not? And I went there, and I initially thought it was going to be useful, but I honestly didn't know how useful it was going to be, because I really learned how to submit my own paper, basically. And at the time, I was not aware that was going to become such an useful skill. And I'm mentioning this because once my unpaid fellowship with Dr. Freeman ended, and then he decided to started hiring me, basically. But my responsibilities were going to be also higher, right? So I started helping with manuscript submissions, with manuscript writing. And that's where, as an English as a second language student, I realized how proficient the English that we learn in any institution is, but at the same time, there is a disconnect between that and scientific English, and how to properly write a research paper or a grant proposal. So, I think it was the right investment, the right move for me. And, thanks to that, I got that paid job. And then a few months later, thanks to through some collaboration, I ended up being connected with Dr. Nathan Shapiro. He is the vice chair of research at the emergency department at Beth Israel Deaconess. So I mentioned my trajectory. I mentioned how passionate I was about research. At the time, I had seen how some of the fellows could do fancy algorithms, and one of my roommates was also a PhD, and I saw how he did this fancy engineering thing and computer languages programming and all this. And at the time, I didn't have an idea of how to do it, but little by little I started learning. And then there are these free courses that you can also take in Coursera or EDX. And initially they started more as a hobby or as a way of trying to understand a little more. And eventually, once I spoke with Dr. Shapiro, he asked me if I had any interest on that, because he had a project with that, and it had to do with um, calculating microcirculatory flow in patients with sepsis. But long story short, he gave me the opportunity, and again, so my responses usually are like, if I don't know anything, I'm gonna be very honest with you, and I say I don't know, but I'm eager to learn, and I think he liked that. And he also he took an investment in me. I did mention that I needed funding, so he did hire me with a salary. And then while I was there, he needed a lot more help, not only that area, but also in submitting institutional review board applications. And what happens is that in big academic centers, um, they have a specific um, a specific place that handles all the submissions. So the funny thing is that at the time, that was a thing that I kind of knew, but I wasn't really a fan of. But since he gave me the opportunity, and and he connected me with people that actually were experts in doing these submissions and doing engineering things, I took the job more to learn, and also to expand my horizons. And it definitely was one of the best moves that I could have done. And I spoke with Dr. Freeman, and he was very supportive, and he suggested that if that was something I really wanted to do, that was the next step, and he gave me his blessing. And ultimately, Dr. Shapiro and I got along real well. He gave me new projects, new challenges, and then ultimately, since I was in the center of the action, in the room where it happened, sort of say, um, I got a chance to meet so many different researchers, because everybody would try to submit their IRBs through us with our help. And I started understanding more and more how do these applications work? What is an expedited review? What is a full board review? How can you phrase things differently? What are the keywords that the IRB is searching for when you're trying to submit a project? And so it was with this newly gained knowledge that I met a new researcher, Dr. Mike Donino. He is the head of the Center for Resuscitation Science at Beth Israel. And I'm mentioning him because uh, you know, um, until that, most of my career had been about gaining new skills and gaining new skills, like learning how to do statistics, learning how to code, learning how to do an IRB. But I think, at the time I met Dr. Donino, the paradigm changed, and uh, you know, I saw the way he's a very bright man, and I saw the way he thinks, the way he takes chances, um and I really like his personality. And I want to paraphrase something that Dr. Ivan Rosas, who works at Brigham and Women's and is also a PPCR advisor, if not a professor still. In one of our meetings with fellows, he mentioned every single one of you is probably the 1% of smartness in your countries, and that is something to be admired of. You don't get to Harvard that easily, and so you all are at the same level at this point. You're very smart. You have nothing to prove in terms of being smart. But what comes next is not about who is smarter, but who has the social skills and abilities of taking chances, of blending in, of being likable. And I'm mentioning this because at that time I was the book smart kid. I was somebody who would read a lot, who would be passionate about one thing, and would be so focused in one topic that I would become an expert on it. But at the same time, I was not really taking risks. I was not really um, you know, trying to advance my career or trying really hard to get out of my comfort zone. So once I met Dr. Donino and I saw how he thinks and how likable he is, how such a gentleman, and the way he treats his fellows and all the things that surround a successful researcher, uh, I decided that I wanted to be more like him. And the funny thing is that after 6 months, I realized I had gone full circle. I was in a place in which I was starting to take more chances. I was starting to submit my own projects. I was finally in a place where if you talk to me about a new project, I could say, oh, you could do this, you could do that, you can contact this, you can analyze your data like this. And if you want to do that analysis, I think we can do this and that. And it was so amazing and mind-blowing to realize that 3 years had passed and I hadn't even noticed. I hadn't even been back to Peru, and even now I haven't been back. And it was just, I was having so much fun. And the thing is that had you asked me at that moment of my career, how do you envision yourself in 10 years, I would have said, well, I want to continue doing research. I don't think I can imagine myself doing something else. And that's what I really, really wanted. And then I had a very honest conversation with Dr. Danino, with Mike, and he was very honest with me, and he said, the times in medicine have changed a lot, and basically, you are very bright, you're very smart, you have so many skills, and that is really useful for any researcher. You basically can apply and get jobs in industry if you want. You can continue at Harvard if you want, or you can move to any city at this stage. You are in a good spot in your career and you can continue that pathway. But I mentioned that, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to have my own research institute, and kind of like have that opportunity and like have fellows and maybe 20, 30 years from now give an opportunity to another Peruvian and tell my story, and help other people, help my country. And he said that was very, very admirable. And at the same time, that since the times in medicine had changed so much, if I really wanted to do that, I could either pursue a PhD, which is so that I could get funding on my own. It's easier. Let me put it this way. You're not going to get funding if you don't prove that you can do something. And the way for you to prove that you can do something is either through a lot of papers or through having academic degrees that show that you can do it, and also a PI. And although I had collaborated with a lot of researchers, the number of papers I had at the time were not near enough for me to get my own grant. So he said, if I was in your position, you could either invest more in getting papers, or try just to get into the world of medicine so that you have the training, and then with that and your research background, you can combine these two and two together, and maybe there's a way for you to go that way, which is highly competitive, by the way. Being a doctor scientist is something many American grads want to do, and it is something that if you really want to do, the pathways are very different. Like in Peru, medicine is an undergrad. Like I went from being a high school student to being a doctor in 7 years later. Here it's different, right? Here you go to college, you get a chance to figure out what you want to do, and then you have to do a lot of work and extracurricular activities. And then if you're lucky and very smart, you can apply to med school. So the system is different. And those positions for doctors that want to do research are very, very coveted. So you're going to have a lot of people that want the same job. So you have to really, really be the best. And so I was inspired by that, but also a little disappointed because I would have liked him to say, you got it, Marcel, don't worry, you're gonna get a grant tomorrow. And when he said that there were more challenges ahead if I really wanted to do, I turned to the person that I trusted the most, and the person that had given me the opportunity. And I went back and say, Dr. Fragny, would you be willing to meet with me? And I thought at that time it had been a year, maybe he had forgotten about me. And he's like, within 24 hours, he replied, of course, Marcel, yes, I can meet with you. And I had a very honest discussion with him, and he gave me advice, which basically was, if you really, really want to pursue your dream of becoming a researcher, you know, you have to invest on it, and you're gonna have to take risks, and I'm here with you. And whatever letter you need, I'm gonna help you with that. And it was really inspiring to see that even though a year had passed, I could connect with him as if it was just yesterday, and nothing, nothing had changed. And interestingly, he wrote a letter for me. I spoke with Mike Donino, and he wrote also a letter. Spoke with all the researchers I had been in contact with, and they were like, "Yes, you can do this." And then the question was like, what residency do you want to do? And honestly, as I was telling you guys since the very beginning, I love clinical medicine. I love my patients, and right now I'm in the hospital. And with that said, it's not something I think I could do forever. It's not something that I think I have the steam and energy to say, I could easily work from 5 a.m. to 12 a.m. and then come back and do the same thing over and over. I think that's not for me. I admire people. I have so many friends that are so passionate and really want to do that. And I think that's very, very impressive. With that said, that's not my skill set. Um, so I decided internal medicine because it is a specialty that is open to so many branches of medicine. It is a specialty that allows you to do fellowships after. You don't really have to decide right away. Um, you can become a cardiologist, you can become a pulmonary medicine and critical care fellow. You can continue being a PCP, you can continue being a hospitalist. There are so many different pathways that you can take in internal medicine. It's really a very open field. So I think that was my main motivation, honestly. And I applied. Initially, I applied to 10 places, and then a friend of mine who's also an international told me, dude, you should really apply a lot more, like legit. And it's because as internationals, you tend to be disadvantaged in terms of letters of recommendations, of experience, of connections, of rotations. And at that time, I was also an old graduate. It was 2018 when I applied. So I had graduated in 2013, March 2013. So it was 5 years. So I initially applied to 10 places. And then after talking to my friend, he scared me a little. I applied to 40 places. And then the funny thing is that the 10 places that I applied initially were the 10 places that gave me an interview. And then from the other 30 add-ons that I placed, I only had 3 or 4. And it was basically kind of like, yeah, well, you're the friend of a friend of a friend, and I know this doctor, and you might as well come here and interview you. And of course, and sorry, it was about the patient, but of course, I don't think that was the bulk of my success. If you guys are thinking on applying this season, my advice would be to apply broadly, and this is because COVID-19 has changed the game a little bit. Most places are not doing in-person interviews, so without in-person interviews, it means that you don't have to travel, hence you don't have the added expense, hence you can apply to more places because it's only a Skype or a video conference like the one we're having. So I think if this was not COVID times, I would suggest choose the places where you think you're going to be happy. And the other thing is that I chose Mount Auburn for 2 reasons. The most important one, being that, and I hope she's not here, but the most important one is that it was a Harvard name. And the Harvard name opens doors. But the other thing is that at the time I had just started dating somebody who's very special to me, and it had been just a month, but we had hit it off so well that I said, well, if I move to somewhere else, maybe I'll never know if this will work. So I took a chance, and truth be told, we're still together and thinking taking next steps, but more to that later. And then it really played out nicely. I matched at Mount Auburn. This was my first choice, and then my steps. Step one was 137, 35. I went to one of those, and then the step 2 CK was, I think it was 138. I honestly don't recall. I'm sure that in one of those I had a 140. I think it was the second one, honestly. I'm already forgetting. And then step 2 CS was passing the first attempt. And for those of you that want to pursue this pathway, I do advise you to have high scores. I do advise you to pass step 2 CS in the first attempt. And if you don't feel ready to take a step, just don't take it, and take it when you're ready. And this is because, research is very important, but the thing that is going to open doors during residency application is your steps. The first thing, your first priority should be steps. The second priority should continue to be steps. The third priority is steps, and always steps. And what happens is that the algorithm just, it works like Google. They have basically they can filter applications. There are thousands of applications, so they filter your application with, step 1 not greater than this, step 2 CS first attempt, and so on and so forth. And then, if you don't fulfill the initial criteria, then they never even see your application. So I do advise you to have high scores, or the best score you can get, and pass everything on the first attempt as soon as you can, right? So in any case, it was a successful application, and then I started residency here. The interesting thing is that this hospital is not as BI is. BI is a large academic center, and they have their own research team. And as I was telling you, if you want to do research in there, you just talk to one of these teams, and they coach you. And I used to coach people into how to do their research, whatever the plural is. Anyway, they do coach you to and help you with this. In Mount Auburn is a smaller center. It's a community center, and then we don't really have a set research team. So I found the opportunity that I needed. I spoke with one of the lead people from the American Thoracic Society. She works here. Her name is Carrie Thompson. She's very interested in research. She basically wrote the guidelines for lung cancer screening, and how the Center for Medicare and CMS, basically, which is the ones that put the money, should pay for it, and there what things this happens, and all that. So she's a very bright person, and most of the research that she does is through collaboration with other institutions. But in this case, when I mentioned, hey, yes, I come from BI, and I used to work in the emergency department, and I spent 3 years of my life learning how to do IRBs, learning how to do statistics, kind of like developing my own software. And she said, yeah, let's do it. And we met on a Tuesday. I remember on my first year. I remember because I was long call. And then, by Friday, she sent me an email saying, hey, I want to do this project. And what was impressive for her is that by the end of the following week, I had all the projects that she wanted, as proposals. She liked that, and since then she gave me more and more responsibility, and I'm very proud to say that I'm one of the residents that has more research initiatives in this program. I help most of my colleagues when my friends say, hey, I have this idea, can you help me? I'm the one that says, yes, let's do this, and this is how you do your statistics, this is what they want to hear, this is the privacy disclaimer and all this. And the funny thing is that the first time I submitted an application, I got so many comments, not here but back at BI when I was learning. And then just a couple weeks ago, a friend of mine sent me his proposal so I could review it, and I sent him so many comments, and he's like, oh, like, you're mean. And I'm like, no, that's what they're gonna ask you. And then he changed it, and I don't think he's had the IRB just met a couple days ago, and I don't think he's had any comments from them, which is also always good. So you don't really know what opportunities you're gonna have, but if you take the opportunity with an open mind, and if you're willing to say that you don't know but you're willing to learn, and if they can give you an opportunity, you're going to do your best. My experience is that in this country, people believe in you, people trust you, and America at its best is really, really a remarkable nation. So I started saying that I was the luckiest guy I've ever met, and I want to mention that I still consider myself one of the luckiest guys on earth. And now that I'm a senior resident and I'm about to finish residency, it's time for me to go back to what I really love, my true passion, which is doing research. And the reason why I'm choosing pulmonary medicine and critical care is because I feel that's the field of medicine that aligns the most with my research interests. I like doing research on health inequality, and I like how with enough ideas, with just a simple idea, you can, and asking people for help, you can come up with a brilliant idea. About 3 months ago, I had a patient who came here with difficulty breathing, and there's always the question of COPD, heart failure. And he mentioned, yeah, hey, that there is this construction site that they just opened. And I started looking, and I saw that, there is some association with the pollution and COPD exacerbations. So, I started doing a little literature review on that, and I noticed that there's a clear link between some particles called PM2.5s, which is the size of a particle, and COPD exacerbations. And this is because it can go all the way into your blood. But the link has been proven with epidemiological data, meaning you just go to a state, you see how the PM2.5s increase and how this corresponds to an increase in admissions of COPD exacerbations, and that's proven. But what we don't know yet is how does a COPD exacerbation, because of these PM2.5s, is different from a COPD exacerbation from pneumonia. And I'm mentioning the differences because in clinical medicine, you can have similar phenotypes, but if the cause is different, the treatment has to be different, right? If you have somebody who is short of breath because of pulmonary issues, you can prescribe an inhaler. But if you have somebody who's short of breath because of heart failure, you will probably give a diuretic. So it is my humble opinion that somebody with a COPD exacerbation for pollution behaves differently than a COPD exacerbation from a virus or a bacteria. And what I have to do, and the way I thought of doing this is with a convolutional neural network that can predict the levels of pollution in a 1 kilometer square grid using NASA images. There is this satellite that rounds the Earth every 24 hours, and it takes pictures of the whole US every 24 hours. So I think I can easily do that comparison. I have some preliminary data showing that it's not statistically significant, by the way, but there is a 20% higher odds of getting admitted if the levels of pollution of PM2.5s go above a certain threshold. And also, it seems that there's a little more leukocytosis in those patients. The one thing I don't have yet is how they behave clinically, and that's where I'm working right now. I'm trying to get more, chart reviews and abstractions. But interestingly, I told this project to one of the interns who has a PhD in engineering, and he gave me a fantastic idea of how to code my convolutional network. And I've been doing some tests, and it seems that his algorithm is faster than mine, so I think I'm gonna go with his lead. But it's just impressive that in a city like Cambridge, if you have a nice idea, you can ask your roommate, you can ask your friend, you can ask your intern, and they have so many ways of complementing your idea, and things like that happened. And I was talking to one of the attendings today, and they were saying, well, that's a brilliant idea. I mean, and of course they are going to be polite, and they will say that to everyone, but I truly hope they mean it. In any case, coming back to reality, what I was going to say is that my advice to every single one of you is, number one, you have to follow your dreams. Find something you're really passionate about. You should be willing to risk it if you have come this far. Number two is that beware that you guys are minorities, or most of us at least, and that there will be some challenges ahead. But as Dr. Rosa said, it's not about who's smarter, but it's actually about who has the emotional coefficient to rise above, and not only to be book smart, but also to fit in and to be part of the team. And I think after I heard his lecture, his advice, my career really took off. And the other thing is, take as much collaborations as you can. Try to be likable, try to work hard, and show everyone that you care. That's all you need. One of my interns is very smart. She's a little slow yet. It's July, but she is one of the persons that tries the most. And the idea was that today I was supposed to go home at 4:30, but it took her a little while. She was faster today, so we finished by 5:30, which is okay, and I'm not even mad, because I'm happy that she's trying, and that's how my PIs have behaved with me. I want to close this by saying that one of the phrases from one of my favorite authors, Kisir Khan, he mentioned in his book, so what if you're thirsty? Always be a river for everyone. And this is something that I want you guys to know, and this is how I live my life. I wake up every day at 4 a.m. I get ready to go to work, come here at 5:30 tops, see all the interns patients, see all my patients, and then at 7 a.m. I'm probably tired, but then there's always this patient that has a lot of concerns, and at that time I'm extremely tired by 7 a.m. after seeing more than 30 patients. But I always take it to my heart that even if I'm thirsty, I have to be a river for everyone, that I have to be there for people. And I think once you realize that being kind is not something that goes away, it's not like money, right? If you give money, you don't have more money anymore. But being kind is not like that. You can be kind to everyone, and kindness is not something that just disappears. Kindness is something that the more you give, the more you receive. And So I want to close my words saying that, you know, I want you guys to really, really follow your dreams, that and always remember that you guys are lucky, and you guys are smart. And well, I think that's all I had to say. Thank you so much for being here. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know.
Great, Marcel. Thank you for your conference and your talk. It was really motivated. And so the first question that we got is from Damian from Mexico. He's in the Tec de Monterrey side. I want to ask, how do you achieve the balance between pursuing research career while also going for clinical training?
That's an excellent question. So the way to do it is by finding your passion. If you do something that you're passionate about, you won't feel exhausted. You will feel inspired. With Lizzie, she's my girlfriend. You know, the research elective is supposed to be the chill elective here. So people say I'm doing research and you're just at home eating popcorn, watching Money Heist or whatever movie you want to watch. For me, when I have my research elective, I wake up at 5 a.m. I start coding, doing my data analysis. I go to bed at 12 a.m. And I only go to bed because Lizzie comes and says, hey, dude, I think you should go to bed. And you know, the next day is wash, rinse, and repeat. And I can do that because it's my passion. In clinical medicine, I do it because what keeps me moving is knowing that person that just had a heart attack was my dad, or could have been my dad, or you know, that Hispanic speaking lady that doesn't really understand what's going on and has a poorly managed diabetes, could have been my aunt. And if you look at people that way, and you find a way of motivating yourself, even if you're thirsty, you're going to be a river for everyone. So I want to say the number one thing is find your passion, find something that you're good at. You know, everybody has a skill. I thought I sucked at coding, but apparently I'm good at it. So you don't have to be the best at coding. You just have to have a skill, and that's my skill. And when I used it, you know, it led to good things. So, you know, I may not be the smartest, most clever resident, but I think I'm somebody who's not willing to give up. And if you keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, eventually you'll succeed. So I'd say you will balance it if you can just find your passion and continue working on it.
Great, thank you, Marcel. Great quotes and motivation words for all the students. Then Cesar is asking, he's from Lima, Peru, and asking which are the pros and cons of doing an internal medicine residency in a university-associated program versus a community hospital.
That's a great question. So a community program will give you, the goals are a little different. The goal of a community program is to form physicians that will eventually work more clinically. The work or the goal of an academic institution or an academic university is to form physicians that will apply more for a fellowship. So the pathway to a fellowship through a university program is in a way easier. With that said, you know, Harvard has a unique environment because when you're at Mount Auburn, you can do rotations anywhere you want. You know, you just send an email saying, hey, you know, so-and-so, I'm a PUA 3 from an HMS institution, and people, you know, it's incredible the amount of responses you get. You can go to Cleveland Clinic, to Mayo, and it's just a lot of collaboration. And you know, it's I would say find the best place to match is a place that takes you. As simple as that. And I'm a very pragmatic guy. If you can match in a university center, great. You got there, so work hard and apply for a fellowship from there. You're gonna have great chances. If you got to a community program, it's also great. Just try to find one that has an academic affiliation. That way you can continue doing research at the same time, and they can connect you anywhere you want. I think that I hope that answers the question.
Great, thank you, Marcel. And then Marianne is asking you, is the curriculum, the CV gap bad when you apply into programs, or if the scores are high, is it okay?
Yes. So people are more forgiving of a gap if you didn't just sit down at home doing nothing. Uh, if you say, well, I had a gap because I was doing, an MPH, or I had a gap because I was working as a doctor in Medicine Sans Frontiers, or Doctors Sans Frontiers, I guess, um, or if you have a gap because you were doing something, people are forgiven. With that said, even if you have something under your background, you need to have good scores. So your number one task should be scores so that you qualify. But the other thing you cannot just forget about is you have to be doing something. So if you, I haven't done the MPH because I don't have the funds, to be perfectly honest. But I would have loved to do an MPH, and I think that's my career goal eventually, right? But not everyone is going to go through that pathway, and that's also okay. You don't have to do an MPH if you really want to practice medicine in this country.
Great, thank you, Marcel. And then we have a question from Estefania Henriquez from Dominican Republic. She's asking, if your biggest passion is research and you want to dedicate your life to research, why do you do a clinical residency?
Because my goal is to become a clinician, an investigator. So the idea for me was that I'm using this program as a stepping stone for me to be able to apply for my own grants. I'm not as smart as a PhD, and I probably will never have all the research that they have under their wing. So if I compete head to head without residency with a PhD, I think I'm a little late to the party, to be honest. Maybe you guys will disagree, but that's the way I see it. So if I cannot compete with a PhD head to head, I have to have something that distinguishes me. And in clinical research, the MDs are the ones who have access to the patients. It doesn't matter if the molecule number 10,000 show that it was decreased after you give a treatment. Only a doctor can say, yes, this is clinically significant, or no, this is not clinically significant. Only a doctor can assess if the cause of that delirium is a stroke, is a heart attack, or is nothing, is functional. So if you have that MD that can allow you to say it with a certain degree of certainty, you can compete better with a PhD. You can say, well, I'm not as smart, but I can tell you that this drug is useful clinically or not. And the other thing is that in my case, I chose this program because it was the Harvard affiliated institution that took me, and I really needed a big name. And the other thing is that my girlfriend at the time was here, and for me it was important. One of the things I didn't mention in the part of challenges is that part of fitting in is getting friends. And as I tangentially mentioned, I was very book smart, but I wasn't really somebody who was social enough, or somebody who was willing to, get out and go get a beer and just, have friends. I was not like that. Now I'm a little more like that, but back in the day I wasn't. So I think those were the things that convinced me that, I should stay in Cambridge, and I should really continue this program.
Great, thank you, Marcel. And then Anna from Brazil, she's asking, what is the biggest challenge regarding networking as an international medical student graduate? Do you have any suggestions?
That is a great question. So networking is hard because culturally we are different. And that is something that took me a lot of work. And this is a whole different discussion. But in my case, I decided to take improv classes. Improv is a form of comedy is, you guys probably know stand-up comedy, in which you go and you know, you say out loud your truth and make it funny, and you know, I did that too, but I think improv for me helped me work as a team and gave me the skills of, you know, just being funny, being a likable guy. And I did that when I was working with Mike Donino, because I saw how, for instance, in his lab, he has this, when he has lab meetings, and like other PIs who I have worked with, he's a guy that says like, okay, so science is this and fun and all that, but then let's talk 2-minute updates about, you know, what are you guys doing in your life? Like, forget about science, forget about all these things. Like, just tell me what's going on in your life, and you have to say it. You can share as much as you want. So I was initially kind of like nervous of sharing. Yeah, I'm taking improv classes, like with a very shy voice, and people looked at me like, what? And I'm saying that I was interested in comedy, and that led to a whole different conversation. It led to, oh, well, that's fun. My kids do that, and then it was like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. And little by little, you know, 2 months later, it was like I was the funny guy in the office. So I think for me, coming back to the question, the challenge is that you proceed from different cultures. In my culture, you apologize a lot, you don't make eye contact, and if somebody raises their voice, you just shut up and do what they say. But here in America, it's a little different. Here in America, it's not about shouting, it's not about apologizing, it's about being part of the team. And changing that mindset is trickier. So I think that's one of the challenges. But if you're extroverted enough, or if you're like me, who I consider myself an introvert, but if you're like me and you're willing to do the extra work and just work on the areas that you think you can improve, you're going to change, and it works really.
Great, thank you. And then Cesar is asking you, will you recommend, Cesar is from Peru, will you
Mhm.
recommend doing an internal medicine residency in the best program in Peru, or doing it in a middle tier or even lower tier program in the United States?
It depends on what your goals are. If you want to stay back at home in Peru, I think doing it in the best spot you can get in Peru is the way to go. But unfortunately, even if you are the best, even if you're House MD or the Peruvian House MD, uh, that doesn't count towards American experience. You know, you don't have an American license, and even the person who comes from the laziest doctor, and I don't think there are lazy doctors in here. Like I work insane hours, but even the laziest doctor in America will have a license, and even if you're the smartest kid, you won't. So it really depends on what you want to do. If you want to stay in Peru back at home, I think going for the best program in Peru is a way to go. If you want to come to America, if you want to have a license in America, then it doesn't really matter if you did it in Peru, right? I guess. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Marcel. Then Stefania is saying a comment. Thank you, Marcel, for the honest conversation and being able to relate to you on a lot of things, including Hamilton. And yes, then Marian is saying thank you for your advice. It is just on time for me. Thank you so much. Also, Anna is thanking you for that. And then Juan Santana from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic is asking, you mentioned coding and algorithms in research. Any recommended resources to check in order to do this kind of
That's
easy?
my guy. Yeah, I love it. I love that question. So I would say EDX and Coursera are the places to check. If you're really interested in starting to learn, the only things you really need to understand and do is what is in like and or and then loops. Once you dominate those concepts, everything else is easy. And EDX and Coursera can teach you that. I would say there are two leading programming languages. One is Python, the other one is R. Personally, I excel at R and I love R. I have tried to learn Python. I suck at Python. People say that Python is easier. So what I would say is, since you're gonna start learn Python. That is a big data science language. And then, you know, if you have the time, learn R, which is more statistical oriented. But any computer language that you can learn will help you. I wouldn't invest learning C Sharp, C++, Visual Basic, which is something I picked up, but I wouldn't advise you to go that way because those are not science oriented. That's more engineering oriented. So I would say go to Coursera, go to the EDX, go to the School of Public Health. There are so many doctors that will let you audit their classes. One of my roommates was doing his MPH, and he took me to a class. He spoke with his preceptor, and he was okay with letting me stay in a class, which was surprising for me, but that was awesome. So I would say you can start with EDX, Coursera. Yes, MIT has free courses as well.
Great, thank you. So anyone else, guys? Don't feel shy. We have a lot of students right now. Okay. And then thank you, Marcel. If you have any other last comments for the students and people who are watching.
I think I have said my truth. Just to close the loop, Lizzie and I are living together, and maybe or may not, I cannot say it yet because she wants it to be a surprise, but maybe there'll be maybe a ring coming up that way. I'm just gonna say that.
Thank you. Great. Congratulations for that. Then we're really happy for you and all your achievements. And thank you for your time today. We know that we are really busy and we appreciate your talk.
Thank you. It has been my pleasure.
Great. And then we have another lecture tomorrow with Claudia Somoto. She says she used to be a senior TA in our program, and she also did a Master of Science at Harvard School of Public Health. She will be sharing her experience. It will be at 6 p.m. It's already posted at Google Classroom and River. Thank you. So see you, Marcel, and we will be in touch.
All right. Take care, everyone.